Also, she taught me preaching. Not all of preaching, but I took her course and was challenged, and you told me that I would be challenged in it. And so, what's one thing you're looking for in a preacher?
That's good. That they can hold a thread of an idea all the way through what they're doing. So in class we talk about when you read something, if you don't quite understand it, you can always go back and reread.
Yeah.
But with oral communication, it just comes at you. And once it's gone, it's gone. And so a preacher needs to be someone that can put a frame together that has a thread that weaves through it, so that you have a full idea that's coming forward with people. And you have to do that pretty strongly in order for orally someone to grasp the point that you're going to make. We do a lot of talking, but not necessarily with points. Preaching has a call to have a purpose to it, that you want to have an effect on somebody in a certain way. And the more specific you can carve that out in a sermon, and the more specific you can create that frame and that thread through it, the better chance you'll have of being understood.
And it's a care for the people, not throwing a million different things at them.
Exactly.
But how do I say one thing a million different ways?
Yeah, and you might actually, and it doesn't mean that it lacks depth either. Some people say, well, that sounds thin, it would be thin, or it wouldn't have a lot of depth of trying to unfold an idea. It's actually not true. You have more opportunity to unfold the depth of an idea rather than string some things together. And we do that probably more than we realize. A lot of just things that don't necessarily relate to one another that come in the package of a sermon. How do we hold together in a strong frame with clear rationales, with a thread that works through them for an ultimate purpose of where you want to go? That's my advice.
Yeah.
For young preachers.
Manuscript or preaching without notes?
I don't allow my students to have a manuscript.
And manuscript just means
everything written down. So it would be like you're writing your whole sermon down word for word. I find that in the past 15 years of teaching students this preaching thing, if we write it down, we actually can never leave that page. Now, I should be careful as soon as we use always and never and all those kind of things. I mean, some people are actually really good at their manuscripts, and they can preach without looking like they're following a manuscript.
For sure.
Most people cannot pull that off. And I find that giving people the capacity to get their sermon in their head by following an outline and talking through it and practicing it that way gives them more opportunity to be pastorally present with people when they're preaching. So I don't allow people to use a manuscript, but I would say after 15 years of teaching this, maybe I've had 3 students that I would push back to a manuscript.
Yeah.
So it's worked pretty well for people.
Okay. Yeah, it's so interesting how different traditions and preachers will use different ways of communication. And yeah, not saying the manuscript is bad.
No, but how do you free your voice to speak along the way?
And how are you present with your audience?
How are you present with? And when you write something down, that could, for most people, that has a different voice to it than when you're speaking. And being able to know like how to write something fully down out of a spoken voice is a different skill than like writing an essay.
Yeah.
So just that's what we try to work on. How do we free people's voice to speak more extemporaneously? Although, prepared, that doesn't mean not prepared.
For sure.
But be able to do that through an outline.
One of the cool things that we did in class with Sharon was talk about illustrations. And so I have 2 questions for you. The first one is why preach through illustrations? What's the purpose?
Excellent. So we do something in class where we have different types of illustrations that we use. We call it the APE, A-A-P-E, application, amplification, proving or explaining types of illustrations. And when we use the word illustration, that's anything. It could be a quotation, it could be something visual from YouTube, it could be an example from your own life, whatever they are. But you have to know why you're using them. Is it to explain an abstract concept? Is it to prove something that needs to be proven either by biblical evidence or by even a statistic in some way? Does it need to be applied to people's lives? Or is it that you're talking about something that needs to be amplified? Like some type of story or example that opens up a vision of what this is. And they're really important because they are actually part of the teaching aspect of preaching. To know who you're talking to doesn't need to be explained or amplified or proven in one way or another. So to be very not that I have a good illustration, that I'm excited because people are going to like it.
Yeah.
But I'm using my illustrations with intention in order to bring forward the preached word in a distinct way.
Awesome. Yeah.
Second question?
Second question. I'm putting you on the spot.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to go find an illustration and want you to give a mini thing. I don't know. Use it, apply it, sermonize it. So here we go.
Uh-oh.
I'll be right back.
I'm not sure this is a good idea.
This is a gavel. Correct, right? Yeah?
That's a gavel.
Okay.
We could ask why I have a gavel because that's a little bit weird.
That is true. Why?
Let's just leave that
Okay.
mystery.
Gavel.
Gavel. Here it is.
Here it is. That's your illustration.
So this is going to be an example of an explain illustration. So explain, it tends to take an abstract concept and make it concrete. Okay, so a gavel. So we think of gavel, we think of a courtroom.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's some type of ruling that's being made. So think about what Jesus Christ has done for us. And that a ruling that we, by grace, are saved. And it's a ruling not of something that happens because of something we've done ourselves, but because Christ rules as King.
That's good.
Rules to make grace firm. And so the judge says, the verdict is, grace is free.
So good. That was beautiful. Totally put her on the spot.